Hi guys. So I'm a little sicky today. So whoops. Oh, I almost just turned my tablet off. um, um, but yeah. So I'm not gonna have much mic today. But I have some true crime. I'll have some music playing as well. I'm gonna change it from this because this music it doesn't pair well with true crime very much. But yeah, we'll just be drawing today, very chill. I hope you all are having a great day. And yeah, let's pop off. I'll get it set up now.
Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I am doing another Where Is video, and today I'm going to be talking about Carly Gousset. And this case has driven me absolutely mad the last couple of days researching it, and I'm interested to see what you guys are going to think about this one, because I just can't come up with an opinion. I really can't come up with a solid theory. I know there's going to be opinions all over the place on this. And then towards the end of this video, I will be talking about two other YouTube videos that have gone viral regarding this situation and try to set the record straight on a couple of things. But before I get into telling you about this case, I have some exciting news to tell you about how this channel is going to continue raising money for Thorn in 2020. So I've done a ton of t-shirts to raise now over $50,000 with your guys' help for Thorn, which is an organization that fights against human trafficking and exploitation of mainly children online. It's an awesome organization. I'm so proud of everything we've done for it so far, but I want to keep going and I want to kind of just change it up a little bit. So going into the new year, I'm going to have a permanent design that will always be available across all of my videos, like one consistent design that has done really well in the past selling wise, and I just like it. It's simple, and I want to just try to have one t-shirt for a little while and see how that does. You can also donate just, by using the team link below. But now I've come up with another way to try to raise money for Thorn, and we're gonna see how it goes. If you follow me like on social media or my vlog channel, I talk a lot about small shop owners and small artists online. I wanted to start incorporating it into my channel, and that's why I have this item here. This is something that I really, really loved. This was a 2019 astrological planner by The Magic of I. There's so much information in it. If you want to learn more about astrology, 2020 could be your year, friend, and what better way than to learn a little bit each day as you go throughout the year. It basically tells you what to expect based on what's going on in the stars. It has little keys for when things might be good or when you might be thinking about certain things, and it's just a great planner. It's beautifully designed, and they're coming out with a new one for 2020, of course. I loved it so much last year that this year I went to them and I asked if they would be interested in partnering up with me, essentially like an affiliate type of sense, where 20% of all sales generated from this planner using my code will go directly to Thorn. Not only that, but the code gives you 10% off the planner. I thought this was so generous for them to do. This is a really small company, and I was so excited that they got back to me. So get your Magic of I 2020 planner below, and if you use the code Thorn, you'll get a 10% off discount and 20% will go to Thorn. And I just want to make it clear, I'm not making any percent off of this at all. It's the time of year to buy your planner, friends, and I can't tell you how much I love this thing. Now let's get right into this case. So last year, right around the time that Jamie Kloss went missing in October. Okay, so this is the part of the video where I started talking about Jamie Kloss and how she was found and how I made a video on it. And the thing is I can't really include that part anymore because you can't watch that video anymore. It has been removed by YouTube as of right now with their new community guidelines. I have no idea what's really going on. It makes no sense to me, and I'm pretty frustrated. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to know more about what's going on with that. And it was pretty cool to see someone return home. But only 3 days before Jamie Kloss went missing, a girl named Carly Gousset went missing from California. She is still missing to this day, and there are theories all over the place about what might have happened to her. When this case first came out, there was so much internet gossip and rumor around it that it was really hard to get a clear idea of what happened. It's still hard to this day. Putting this together was an absolute nightmare because everything is all over the place, and the original story that the family told has changed, so that's been really confusing. Like, trying to figure out what actually happened was pretty hard, but I think I have a decent idea now of what happened in this bizarre situation. So Carly was only 16 years old at the time that she went missing. She would be 17 now. As far as Carly's personality and her life, I could not find that much information. All the articles said, you know, she's a typical teen, whatever a typical teen means. Sources said that she liked to dance, that she liked to hang out with friends and her boyfriend. She had a boyfriend named Donald at the time, and she also worked at an after-school job. Now, Carly's family had recently moved to White Mountain Estates in Chalfont, California. And let me break down this family for you because I think it's important you understand that first. Carly's parents are named Lindsay and Zach, but they separated when Carly was like 2 years old. Eventually, Zach got remarried to a woman named Melissa. And in her early childhood, Carly actually lived with her mother for a while, but eventually she moved in with her dad, Zach, and Melissa. And they raised her most of the time for the majority of her life. Most of her life before this, she had lived in Bishop, California. But like I mentioned, she had just recently moved to a town pretty close to Bishop, just north of it, called Chalfont. Now, Carly actually wasn't really fazed by this move. She got to keep, you know, her same friends and stay in the same school district, so it was just like a house change for the most part, and it wasn't like affecting her really badly or anything. So let's go to October of 2018. They have just moved to this new area, and according to Melissa, Carly's stepmother, Carly was adjusting pretty well to life there and seemed really happy at the time. She said she had a really naturally positive attitude, and she was just one of those kids who was really upbeat, and she was not worried about Carly in really any way. So Friday, October 12th, 2018, Carly is going to be going to a football game with her friends. It's a typical Friday night. They're all gonna go to this football game, a bunch of friends, and you know, it always starts with a football game and ends in other things, right? So she goes to this football game, and Zach and Melissa stay home that night. Zach had worked that day, came home, had a couple beers. It was a Friday night, he's drinking in his house, and Carly was supposed to be going to this football game, but her group of friends never even made it to the football game. They decided to do other things, so they were just kind of hanging out in the town. But Melissa and Zach thought that Carly was at the football game, so they were just hanging out at home like normal. They received a call from Carly, and Melissa said that when she talked to her, she seemed paranoid and scared, and said that she was scared actually and wanted her to come pick her up. According to Melissa, she was actually so upset that she didn't even want Melissa to hang up the phone with her on her way to get her. She was that scared and paranoid. So, you know, Melissa realizes that she didn't go to the football game. She goes and tries to pick her up, and at first she called Melissa and said that she was outside of Highlands Park, which was like a mobile home park, and she was just standing outside waiting for her to come pick her up. But then Melissa got there and Carly was not there. She actually found her about a mile away, running down a street called Dixon, running down the street by herself at night. The only reason that Melissa even saw her was because her phone flashlight was on and you could see it while she was running along the street. Now, when she found her, she said she pulled up to her, she was by herself, she got in the back seat, she didn't want to sit in the front for whatever reason, and as soon as she got in the car, she told Melissa that she was sorry that she didn't go to the game and that she and her friends had smoked a little green. Gotta keep this YouTube friendly. So Melissa starts realizing, okay, her behavior is because she is on something. Now, as we go on with this story, you're gonna see that her reaction to things was a bit more extreme than someone who is just like stoned or something. She at some points is very paranoid, showing hallucinations and saying weird things. And to me, this does not sound like THC only. It sounds like this was something laced, that someone gave her something else. I mean, there are so many possibilities of things she could have been on. I mean, I would name them all off, but YouTube doesn't like that. Anyway, no one knows what Carly actually took that night, or if she was fully honest about just smoking. So Melissa and Carly drive home, and when they got home, Zach claims that he could immediately tell that she wasn't just stoned. Something was really wrong with her. She was going back and forth out of like a very strange mental state. At times she would act like she was really scared of them and say, I hate you guys, you're gonna kill me, I'm afraid of you guys. Like she was saying all this wild stuff to them, and then a minute later she'd be like, I love you guys, I'm so happy I'm home, blah blah blah, and was like switching all over the place, just acting totally bizarre, having what sounds to me like a bad trip. Now the times have been reported all differently. There are some sources that say Melissa got the phone call from Carly at 9 p.m. Some sources say they got home at 9 p.m. So I'm not really sure, but when they did get home, Melissa wanted to help, sober Carly up. So she gave her a power bar and a salad, which is kind of like a strange thing to give someone to like sober up. I guess it's not like she was drinking, but I don't know, just it seems odd. But anyway, she was trying to get her to eat a salad, and Carly was eating the salad and then she was spitting it out and going, bleh, this is the devil's lettuce. So they noted that she was just acting totally bizarre, and they decided that it was time to start like ramping her down, trying to get her to go to sleep. And as they try to get her ready for bed, Melissa decides to start filming her. Now this is really good that they did this. This provides a lot of information for investigators, a lot, and it really helps kind of set an idea of what Carly was like that night. It verifies them saying that she was acting this way. So Melissa basically recorded her like with her iPhone camera, but she ended up not actually taking any video. So it's basically an audio recording just done with the video recorder. And the idea with this was to show her how she was acting in the morning, to basically a life lesson. Don't do drugs again or you're gonna have this bad experience. So I'll get more into the recording later. We'll talk more about that. But that night, Melissa decides to sleep with Carly because Zach, he'd been drinking a decent amount. He said he was kind of in and out of sleep all night and didn't really know what was going on fully, but Melissa was up with Carly all night. Melissa claims that Carly was up pretty much all night, upset, paranoid, just very distressed.
Friday night, I picked up Carly from town. She was supposed to be at a football game. She had lied to me and told me that she was at the football game. And when she called me, she said she was sorry. I was with friends. I'm sorry, can you please just come get me? So I drove to town and picked her up. She was by herself. She was very paranoid. She was scared. When we got home, she was still paranoid, almost like extremely stoned. We got home and then I had her eat. She had a salad. I made her eat a power bar, and she wanted me to spend the night with her. So her brothers were awake and Zach was awake, and we hung out and she ate, and then she was like, can we go to bed? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, well, can you come sleep with me? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Whatever, I'll lay with you and watch a movie. We hung out for a little bit in the kitchen, talked a bunch, and then her brothers went to bed, and so then I went to bed with her, and then we got up. I had to go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, wash my face. She was by my side the whole time. She didn't want to leave my side. She was paranoid. We ended up back in the living room with her brothers for a little bit, watched a movie, and she was just still kind of paranoid. And then we went back to bed, and I spent the whole night with her. I mean, I was awake, and then I dozed off, and she's just there. She was just hanging out. She was awake. She wanted to paint my toenails. She wanted to color. I was up, and then I would doze off, and I was up, and I would doze off, and she was there the whole time. I was really scared to put this out there because so many people are judgmental.
So she slept with her, and she was texting like Carly's friend. She was texting Donald, which was Carly's boyfriend, and asking him to pray for Carly. We don't really know the context of why, maybe just because she had this bad trip, but a lot of people are concerned about that message. Like, why was she concerned enough to ask for prayers from her boyfriend? Anyway, she sent out the last text message to people at like 5:38 a.m. And that was the last time that she remembers being awake, and she says that she saw Carly sleeping right next to her, and then she went to sleep. Now, this part of the story has definitely been reported differently or changed over time since this all first came out. But I'm gonna go off of what Melissa says happened to this day. and then I'll kind of back up and explain. Around 7:15 in the morning, she wakes up and notices that Carly is not in bed with her. She claims she gets up, runs around the house, tries to look for her, and cannot find her. Now I'm going to play a clip of Melissa herself explaining what this moment was like.
Carly Lane Gousset is missing still. She's been missing since. Breathe. She's been missing since 6:30 a.m. The last time that I spoke to her was 5:30. She didn't take her cell phone. We're coming up on 10 hours, and I'm putting this out there because it's going on 10 hours. I fell back asleep, and then that's when I woke up and she was gone. And I wish I wouldn't have fallen asleep. I was in her bed and she was just gone. And I immediately got up and I looked around the house and I'm just going, where is she? I just don't know. Where the hell is she? And I go and I tell Zach and I say, Carly's not in her bed. And so just started to panic and got in our cars and just started driving all around. I drove my Corolla out in the boonies over boulders, and Zach took the truck and he took the binoculars, and then, 2 hours was the point where something's wrong.
So after they can't find her by going out looking for her themselves, around 9:35 a.m., they decide to call Lindsay, Carly's birth mom, and let her know that Carly is missing. So Zach calls Lindsay, and the first thing that he says to her is, Carly's gone. Now, Lindsay does not take this well. She immediately says that she thought that meant that Carly was dead, like right off the bat.
Lindsay, Carly's gone. My heart sunk. What do you mean she's gone? What led up to this? Where was she? Who was she with? Question after question. And his response was, I don't know, she's just gone. She went to a party.
Those were the words
gone.
that he used.
And it stuck out like just a sore thumb.
Gone.
Gone.
What did you think gone meant?
Dead. I mean, that's a big word.
She thinks that it's weird that he used the word gone and was suspicious about that, which I don't really get. If something was missing from my house, like if my cat, one of my pets was missing, I would definitely be like, Josh, Meatball, or Bernie, or Sadie, or whoever is gone. I don't think that necessarily means that they're dead, but Lindsay took that badly right from the beginning. So as soon as he gets off the phone with Lindsay and she starts heading that way, he ends up calling the police and letting them know that they believe that she ran away, that they had seen her that morning and that she was sleeping in bed, and then she was gone before 7:15, and they think that she just walked out of the house. So the police at first think that this is a runaway who is intoxicated. So not a great situation. So they end up canvassing the neighborhood when they start their search to see if anyone else had seen her leave the house that morning, and they claim to have 3 witnesses. Now to this day, these witnesses are kind of all shaky. You can't get anything confirmed in this case. It's really irritating. So the first witness was a person who was in an all glass room in a hot tub, like a sunroom, and said that they saw her through the glass. Now, Lindsay, Carly's mom, has been pretty skeptical about this because she doesn't believe you could get a good vision out the glass, but that was probably the most serious witness. Then there was a local teacher who had called Melissa and told her she had seen Carly that morning as well. And then there was a wooder, and he was working on the side of the road, and he claims to have seen Carly near Highway 6, which is really, really close to their house. And obviously, there's a big concern when it comes to major highways and human trafficking, and that has been a huge concern among this case. Did she go to the highway? Now, all of Carly's personal items were left at home, like her phone, her wallet, her purse, everything. Right off the bat, they started searching for her, and they really looked everywhere that they could. They deployed multiple resources, such as a helicopter, multiple all-terrain vehicles, so that they could really get around this area. It's a really rocky, deserty kind of area. They had scent dogs. They formed multiple search parties.
During the early morning of October 13th, 16-year-old Carly Gousset disappeared from her home in Bishop, California. Lindsay, how are you holding up?
By the grace of God. I don't know how anyone ever has to go through this, does it? But it's got to be by the grace of God.
What happened on the night that she disappeared?
Melissa picked her up from a party, and she came home, and she was really paranoid. They got home, got her settled in, and Melissa tried to console her, and in the morning she was gone. Nobody heard her get out of bed. Nobody heard her go through a garage door. Nobody heard her go out the front door, but the front door was ajar.
Did Carly take her cell phone with her?
No, she did not.
If Carly is watching this tonight, what do you want to say to her?
Baby girl, there's nothing that you can't say to me or call out to me. Just, please, Carly, I missed you. I love you. Just keep praying, baby. You're gonna come home.
Lindsay, we're going to do the best we can to get some answers for you, okay?
Lindsay, Carly's mom, was around at the house at all this point, but she didn't actually participate in the searches because she said that she was in shock. She was really upset and just couldn't believe something happened to Carly. And a lot of times people won't participate in searches. Not everyone deals with this the same. There's some victims that like to go out and immediately start searching and they're like super involved, and some people take a different approach. Like everyone handles the grief of someone going missing differently. But there's been a lot of criticism at Lindsay for not being involved in the search, especially from Melissa and Zach. Like they did not like that. So initially police thought, you know, she could be just out in the desert wandering around, and that was really how they were looking for her. Maybe she was lost and confused, still on some type of trip. They put up signs all over the area for her, and they had like blue ribbons, like teal ribbons around them to help raise awareness because this was one of her favorite colors. And Carly's stepmom, Melissa, from the beginning was sharing everything like right away. And I'm gonna put in as many clips as I can of her telling the story. Some people were really critical about the amount of social media that she was doing. I mean, it makes total sense. Social media is a huge tool for missing people. That's why these videos are so important. It's so great that this community has grown so much. But a lot of people were like, are you trying to get attention from this? And you know, Melissa says, no, I just wanted to make sure everything was out there and I was doing my best to raise awareness for Carly. And due to Melissa's efforts, this case did get out there a lot more. But she was posting a lot, doing live streams all the time. Carly's mother, Lindsay, and Melissa took completely different approaches to social media, actually. And it did not take long for people to start coming after her for all these little things and inconsistencies. And Melissa became a possible person of interest to the public, like right away. And at first, you know, the families were working together, Lindsay, Melissa, and Zach. They're all focused on finding Carly. But Lindsay says that right off the bat, she felt like something was weird. And she says that she felt this because she didn't understand why Melissa had recorded Carly. She thought it was really strange. And then when she heard part of the recording, she was very upset. And I'll explain why. Lindsay asked people publicly not to speculate about a possible abduction. She wanted to not hinder the investigation because I think she felt like something sketchy was going on within the house right away. Actually, that's what she said she was feeling. And so she encouraged people to not go down that road and to not start being like, oh, she was abducted and stuff, which is interesting. And Melissa went a completely opposite direction. And I believe only 10 hours after Carly was missing, she was already saying, I believe that maybe she was abducted. And this kind of is what started the tension between the families.
We're coming up on 10 hours, and I'm putting this out there because it's going on 10 hours that she's been missing. And I want to put this on blast because I don't think she's out in the desert. I think that she could have been abducted or taken because we do live on a highway and it happens, and I'm being real. And I just want to let everybody know, I want to put this on blast because I don't know what to do to consider her a missing person. She's 5'7", about 115 pounds. She has blue eyes and the cutest little nose and a great smile, and her hair goes all the way down past her, like to her belly, let's say, mid-waist. And this was last year's picture. She's a little bit different, but not much. She's still like adorably cute.
Now let's go back to this audio recording, okay? So this video, I guess I should say, has never been released. Other than the police and the family, I believe there's only one person who has heard it, and that is good old Dr. Phil. That's been really the only major coverage of this case. The family went on the Dr. Phil show and they did like a 2-part series, but they really focused it on the drama between Lindsay, Zach, and Melissa. I mean, to be honest, I just really didn't like the way that they dealt with the whole case. I thought it was odd, but anyway. At first, Dr. Phil says that Zach and Melissa did not want to give him the recording for whatever reason. He actually like goes at them a little bit about it.
At one point, you filmed her, right?
But it's just audio because I stuck it in my pocket.
Okay.
So you could show her the next day how she sounded on drugs.
I wanted to hear that tape, but You didn't let us hear that tape. Tell me why. I wasn't.
It's an ongoing investigation still. This is ongoing.
FBI have it, the sheriffs have it. I don't think it's gonna solve the mystery of where she is.
Is there a reason that I didn't hear that tape?
Nobody
No.
asked.
No.
No.
Did anybody ask us?
I don't even think
Oh,
anybody
we
really
asked. Yeah, we asked. We were told we couldn't have the tape. Curious
I
why.
mean, you can listen to the tape. I don't want the world to listen to the tape.
Finally, commercial break goes by or whatever, and they have a change of heart. They decide they're actually going to share this with Dr. Phil. Not the whole world, but with Dr. Phil. And he listened to it, and so that's all we really have is like his interpretation of it.
I'm very glad that you made that recording. What it tells me is, as I said, this was a mind-altering drug. Because of her degree of paranoia, it makes perfect sense to me that she would flee.
And then we also have Lindsay, who said that she has heard most of it, but hasn't heard the whole thing, and what she claims is in the audio. But we don't have a confirmed source of what all was said in that audio, because this is an ongoing investigation. They need to keep some things private. It makes sense. But in this recording, it has been reported that Carly was talking about wanting to go to church, wanting to read the Bible, things about the devil. Like, she was clearly going back in her mind about like dark thoughts and spiritual thoughts and things that a drug trip could induce. And then we also do know that during the call, Carly asked Melissa to call 911. The way that this went down, according to Lindsay, is that she said, Mom, are you there? And Melissa in the recording says, no, it's not your mom, it's me, Melissa, silly. And Carly says, oh, sorry, I'm scared. And then at one point, Carly asks Melissa to call 911. And Melissa says, okay, I'm gonna call. And then there's a pause, and then Carly says, well, are you gonna call 911? And Melissa says, no. And then Carly says, well, why? And Melissa says, because there's nothing wrong. Now, this has been probably the biggest point of contention here, is people saying whether or not Melissa should have called 911, whether they should have brought her to the emergency room. I mean, could something have happened to her? Could she have been overdosing? And that's what Carly's mom really feels happened. She says to this day that her theory is that Carly had like a drug overdose during the night, and that Melissa and Zach got rid of her body. And it's pretty out there. There's not like a ton of evidence for this, but it's interesting to know what her mother thinks. Now, a lot of people have been critical of Lindsay as well, because she wasn't as involved in Carly's life maybe as much as Melissa was currently, because she was like living with her and everything, and had spent the last few years with her. So people are kind of all over the place with how they feel about these two families and whose side they're really on. So there's been a lot of interest in Melissa and her version of events, because it seemed that somewhere along the lines her story changed. Like, what she originally told investigators versus what she goes with now is totally different. I would like to understand this better, but she doesn't really have an explanation for this. And there's a couple examples of her story kind of changing, and the one I want to focus on is the timeline. In the latest, Dr. Phil episode, Melissa says that she stayed in bed with Carly all night, fell asleep around 5:30, woke back up around 7:15, and Carly was not in the bed with her. But when you do a pretty basic search on this case, you'll find a NBC News article that came out like right around this time, and there's other sources that report these type of things too. And it says this: the next morning around 5:45 a.m., Melissa said she went through her usual routine of opening the kids' doors and saying good morning to them. She told Dateline how she saw Carly in her bed at the time. Melissa said that she went back to sleep for a little bit, but when she woke up a little bit later and opened Carly's door again, Carly was nowhere to be found. I went to our bedroom and I said to Zachary, honey, she's not here. And he said, what do you mean she's not here? And I said, she's gone. She's not in her room, she's not outside, she's not in the backyard, she's not anywhere. So as you can see, somewhere along the line, the story was changed. Now, whether this was like incorrect reporting or this is Melissa saying things wrong, it's very confusing to figure out what the timeline actually was or what was going on in that house around those early morning hours. So like I said, Zach and Melissa kept that audio recording that they had from Dr. Phil's crew.
Hey, 6 months, let's go. How about I draw you in my sketchbook?
Like, give us this tape, like give us an exclusive. So I don't believe that. They at first refused to give it to them. They finally did. But Dr. Phil also wanted to interview some of the mysterious witnesses that saw Carly that morning, and they would not give him the information for like the man that saw her from his hot tub room. Like, they wanted to get more of an idea of this person's story and they would not give out his contact information. And they admitted in the show that's because we don't want to, you know, get them involved until they say it's okay, and we haven't asked them, and some excuse. But it's like, if you have a missing child, why wouldn't you want everyone interviewed, every stone unturned, just be forthcoming with everything? I mean, that's where people have problems and have suspicions around Melissa and Zach. Zach and Lindsay's relationship now is non-existent. Melissa cannot stand Lindsay, Lindsay cannot stand Melissa, vice versa. I'm pretty sure they do not speak at all.
Carly seemed really confused. You can hear her asking, are you gonna call 911?
Lindsay's making accusations, she wants answers, so she's mad because she wasn't a part of it either.
I believe there's evil in Zach and Melissa's house.
It's just a complete lie. We've raised Carly since she was like 5. I mean, this is ridiculous.
How dare you? Because I'm her stepmom? Because I didn't give birth to her?
Which is really quite sad considering the main focus here is finding Carly. It would be better if they could work together, but you know, Carly's mom feels like Zach and Melissa had something to do with it, or they're covering up something, or they're not being forthcoming about something. And when you listen to Zach and Melissa's side of things, they're like, we did everything that we could. We're the ones who raise her. Like, you don't really know what you're talking about. How dare you accuse us of this? So they're on completely different pages. Before I get into some of the theories about what could have happened to Carly and just walk through the different scenarios, I want to clear up 2 things. These are both YouTube videos, viral things that have been connected to Carly that many of you have, you know, sent to me or asked me to talk about. And I know if I don't address these things that there'll be comments about them. So I'm going to just go ahead and talk about them. The first thing is this YouTube video that a bunch of people sent me, I think without actually watching it. But this was a pretty upsetting thing that happened to the community of people who want Carly Gousset to be found. This video went really viral. There's 14 million views on it because when you look at this thumbnail, it makes you think that this person literally found Carly out in the mountains. Like, it has a thumbnail with a red arrow pointing to a red circle and then a picture of Carly, like with the arrow pointing to the person, suggesting that Carly is the person in that thumbnail. Now, this video, I don't want to be too critical of it because this guy did end up helping a situation, a different situation, but I really don't like the way that they used Carly to clickbait people. The video is of these guys driving around the mountain area in Hemet, California, and they see this girl outside running around. They decide it's really weird. They call her Ghost Girl. And by the way, this is all sponsored. This is all sponsored. The next day, he decides that he should call, which is like, you should call right away. But anyway, I'm glad he called. He calls 911 and he tells them what he saw. And he says that I think it might be Carly Gousset because I did some research and I found this girl and she went missing pretty close to this area. Maybe it's her. And the whole video leaves you thinking that he literally found Carly Gousset outside, especially because she's in the thumbnail. But then in the last like minute, he tells you that it actually did end up being a runaway. So it was great that he called. It was good what he did. But it was a teenage runaway who was out hiding in the woods with her boyfriend for 2 days and not Carly. So I find it really weird to use her as clickbait and to try to take advantage of the situation, especially when it's a sponsored video. I don't know. Really rubbed me the wrong way, but I just wanted to say it. That video has nothing to do with Carly. Don't even waste your time watching it. And then I have to talk about this. This is so weird. I think this is the weirdest thing I've ever talked about on my channel. Some of you are gonna be like, why even? But I had to cover this because if I don't, this will be the top comment for sure. And that is the whole Kate Yupp situation. Now, if you have not heard of Kate Yupp, I have been recently introduced to this YouTube channel by a bunch of you guys sending me messages that you think it could possibly be Carly Gousset. So in 2018, a YouTube channel started called Kate Yupp, and it's an ASMR eating channel. You know, YouTube is a strange place these days, guys. And this channel is this girl who sits down and doesn't talk and eats in one straight continuous cut, extremely fast, a ton of seafood. Like, this is one of the grossest things. I'm gonna warn you. I'm gonna play it and it's a little disturbing. Now, this channel has become like a big conspiracy because the person in the videos wears a blindfold and they do not show like up above their nose. And they eat as if they're almost starving, like so fast. I've never seen anyone eat like this. People have started to think that maybe she is being held captive or being forced to make this content. Now, I don't know about this. I mean, normally I feel pretty weird about these type of things, but this person does not want to be seen like above the nose at all. And this person has sometimes like cuts on her face or a bruise. And ever since people have started speculating this stuff in the comments, it's become this big thing. Is she a missing person being held captive, or is she in an abusive relationship, or what is going on? Because it seems like there's some guy running this channel, like filming her, and people think that she's being forced to do this, and that maybe this person is drugged, or who knows. Whoever is running this channel, whether it's Kate Yup or someone else, clearly knows that people think this, because they've started playing it up. Like, they started putting in titles and capitalizing like HELP on each of the beginning of the sentence to form help, or like they've capitalized SOS at one point. There's been all these like little things thrown in there where they're almost like playing it up. So there's a very good chance that this channel could be someone just knowing that this could be like a viral moment and taking advantage of people being weirded out by the situation, just trying to make things look weird, or something really strange is going on. I don't know, because this channel is very weird to me. I get incredibly creepy vibes from the whole situation. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up in this video is because tons of people think that this is Carly Gousset, and I'm here to say that this is not Carly. I will say that this person, Kate Yup, does look a lot like Carly, but it just doesn't make sense because their first video was uploaded on June 11th, 2018. Carly didn't go missing until October of 2018. This really went viral from this one tweet. I'll put it up on the screen, but this is what really got this theory kicked off. Now, there hasn't been any official like statement from police saying anything, but Carly's Facebook page, which I believe is being run by Lindsay, Carly's mom, pretty sure it's run by her, made a post. This was the only thing I could see related to this, but they made a post saying, "We're aware of the Kate Yup situation. Law enforcement has checked into it and it's not Carly." There has been no official report from law enforcement saying this, but because of the timeline, this really can't possibly be her. I just think this YouTube channel is totally weird, and I hope YouTube looks more into it, because if it is a real situation, that's of course really scary, but if it's just someone taking advantage of people and like trying to convince someone that there's a hostage or a kidnapping situation, people have done that type of thing on YouTube. It's like a pattern, and YouTube's gonna have to figure out a way to deal with situations like this. Whether it's real or not, it's really upsetting to see, and like, of course you wonder, there's that chance it could be real, and maybe it is someone being held captive, and it's like scary. But I wanted to set the record straight on both of those videos. They're both such viral moments related to Carly. Neither of them are Carly. Now, when it comes to theories about Carly and what could have happened to her, people are all over the place. Really, anything could have happened. It's bizarre. You know, there's one group of people out there who don't think Carly ever left that house that day, think she died in the house that night, possibly from a drug overdose. And then there's people that think that she left in some type of drug-induced state, or maybe the drugs were affecting her so much that they freaked her out enough to leave, or maybe she was so ashamed by doing these drugs that she decided to leave herself, which feels pretty unlikely to me. You know, like, did she run away? Is she still out there? But a lot of people think, and I'd say the majority, think that she still could be out there and could be alive. Because they live so close to Highway 6, that is a huge way that human traffickers get people out of situations quickly, out of areas quickly. You know, get on a major highway and they're gone. And people getting sold into human trafficking happens so much more than we would like to admit. It's constant in this country. It happens in Walmarts, it happens in empty parking lot, definitely near highways, and someone could have easily seen Carly in an upset state and taken advantage of her and taken her somewhere. And if she's in that world of human trafficking, she's likely still alive and out there somewhere. Or she could have been abducted by just some weirdo and taken to their house and kept there. Zach and Melissa feel like that's the most likely scenario, that someone picked her up from around the highway and took her somewhere. Her family still, more than ever, needs eyes on her, needs you to memorize her face in case you happen to see her. People have been rescued from human trafficking. It does happen. Thorn rescues tons of people from human trafficking, tons of children. That's why I want you to buy one of these planners. Go get it now. You need one. Treat yourself. It's 2020. Let's get our shit together next year. I think there is a pretty decent chance that that's what happened, and it's really scary and it's just sad. I feel so sad for the family that they have all this tension, and there's, you know, a lot of broken hearts here and hurt feelings, and all this internet rumors and gossip and all that just doesn't help. Main concern here is Carly, and where is Carly? So I'm putting her picture up again on the screen. Do not forget this face. This is Carly Gousset. She went missing on October 13th, 2018 in the early morning hours from the Mono County, California area. If you have seen Carly or have any possible information, please call the Mono County Sheriff's Office at 760-932-7549.
We are no closer to finding Carly. This is a missing person investigation, but we are considering every possibility, and we treat this investigation as we would any serious criminal investigation. Carly, if you are hearing or watching this, please know that your family loves you and wants you to come home.
My letter is to Carly. It was exactly 1 year ago today that I received your last text, not knowing it would be the very last time I heard from you. 2 days after that, I got the call that made this whole world go dark. The news that my sweet rainbow baby had gone missing. I have so many questions, Carly. I hold on to hope that maybe someone does have you, that they will see the catastrophic damage this has done to our family.
These 363 days without knowing anything of where you are or what happened to you has been miserable, and life hasn't been the same at all without you. I miss your laugh. I want so much to see your beautiful face again and hold you in my arms. You are my little girl and always will be to me. As for me, every second of every day that I don't know what happened to you is already extremely difficult. All of your brothers and family miss you so much and want you home.
This case leaves me feeling so frustrated and confused. I would really like your opinions. What do you think happened to Carly? Do you think she's still out there? Let me know below, and that's it for me today, guys. I hope you're having a great day. Stay safe, and I will talk to you next time.
Where'd you go?
Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is very interesting, and I have to tell you, it's gonna be a little confusing. You're definitely gonna need to strap your thinking cap on here today because it's a fascinating case, but it is complicated. So I'm gonna do my best to try to explain all of it in one YouTube video right here, because this was actually a popular Netflix series called Evil Genius. I think it came out in like 2017 or something. It's on Netflix and it's 4 parts. So if you missed that and you couldn't commit 4 hours of your life, then I will condense it here into a YouTube video for you, or at least do my best, because there's a lot to go over here today. And I already know that this video is gonna get demonetized, so we do have a sponsor. Thank you to the Drop app for sponsoring this video. So if you have never heard of Drop, it's actually a free app that you can download on your phone, and you are able to use it to earn rewards when you shop at some of your favorite stores such as Trader Joe's, Sephora, Starbucks, Walmart. You can even use it on Uber and Lyft to get rewards back. The points that you earn on the app actually translate into gift cards, and the gift cards are for popular stores such as Amazon, Sephora, Starbucks, and more. Basically, whenever you're shopping, you go to their shop app and see if they have the store on their app, and they have things like Expedia, Ulta, Forever 21, Groupon. You just use the search bar to type in what you're looking for. So for example, I just made some purchases at Apple because I am working on a new series. Some of you may have heard me speak about it before, but we are going to be editing it, and we're taking up the quality a level, new camera, new equipment, and yeah, it's nice to be able to get some reward points for that. So basically, if you spend $250 at Apple right now, then you will receive 3,750 points back. And Apple is 15 points for every dollar you spend, so it kind of varies based on the store. Once you find the offer that you want, you just click on it, tap shop now, and this will take you directly to the online store from the app. And then you just shop just like normal, and Drop will automatically add your points once the transaction clears. If you are not using a rewards program when you shop, this is the time to start doing it right before the holidays and Black Friday, and it just makes it so easy. It's a total no-brainer. And what's so awesome about using it during Black Friday is you get the benefits of shopping through their apps. You get the points, but you also get discounts on your favorite brands because they're all offering, deals. And this is really cool, but when Drop asked to sponsor me, they asked if they could run a giveaway for my audience, and 100 of you will be chosen to win gift cards ranging from $5 to $25 for various stores on the Drop app. All you need to do is download the app, and when it opens, you'll be asked for an invite code. I will put mine on the screen, and then you link a card and you're all set. The contest will end December 30th, 2019. So be sure to check out the Drop app. Again, the link to check it out will be below along with my invite code. But now let's go ahead and get into this video. This is crazy. Strap in, you guys. This one is really, really weird. In this video, I'm gonna be telling you about a collection of people who all came together in a kind of strange way. I'm gonna start out by telling you about Brian Douglas Wells. He was born on November 15th, 1956, and was 46 at the time that all of this took place. And he was currently living in Erie, Pennsylvania at the time. Growing up, Brian wasn't super into school and he ended up dropping out pretty early on. And then for 30 years, he was a very trusted employee of Mamma Mia's Pizzeria, where he worked as a delivery man. Now, he was described as someone who was very likable and very friendly, outgoing, social, and a little bit naive and childish in a way. According to his family and friends, he loved movies, he loved concerts, any type of event. He liked to go to that type of stuff. He was really, really social. And he also really loved scavenger hunts, which is random, but you know, that's what he was into. But like I said, he was definitely a little naive and could be someone that would potentially be taken advantage of by someone else. So now we're gonna jump to August 28th of 2003. Around 1:30 p.m., Mamma Mia's Pizza received a call, a delivery order to have 2 pizzas delivered to 8631 Peach Street. And this address was actually only a few miles away from the pizzeria. And when this call came in, the owner of the pizza shop, Tony Didamo, actually took the call and didn't quite understand what the person was saying. So he handed it off to Brian, and Brian was the one who ended up taking down the information and the directions. And that address is actually for a television station, WSEE TV, and it's their transmitter tower, and it's just at the bottom of this dirt road, so it's a totally random place to be delivering a pizza. They also later discovered that this call was made from a payphone at a Shell gas station not too far away from the delivery site. But then, at 2:28 p.m., Brian ended up walking into PNC Bank, and he was wearing a white Guess t-shirt, and it had this giant bulging collar around his neck, like this big thing underneath the shirt. So you couldn't quite see what was under it, and I'm pretty sure that the Guess shirt was worn on purpose for that reason. He also had a short cane that he was carrying with him. And once he got up to the teller, he handed them a note that said, "Gather employees with access codes to the vault and work fast to fill a bag with $250,000. You only have 15 minutes. And then he lifts up his shirt and showed that that giant device on his neck was actually a bomb. Now this is a very strange shaped thing. I'm surprised more people didn't react to him or notice that this was going on. But how did he go from delivering 2 pizzas to Peach Street to robbing PNC Bank? So after he hands this note to the teller obviously is nervous, but they tell him that there is no way to get the vault open in time to meet your time restraints here. So all I can give you is what I have on hand, and that was $8,702. So he hands that over, and Brian takes it, and he starts walking out like totally chill, and on his way out, he grabs a dum-dum. And he just walks out like everything's fine, gets in his car, and takes off. So obviously they called the police, they gave a description, and it wasn't long before state troopers actually saw Brian outside and arrested him. He was standing outside in a nearby empty parking lot. They put him down on the ground, kind of sat him down while they tried to figure out what was going on with him. So the police started trying to, get information out of him, figure out what's going on here, and he tells them that he was forced to wear this neck collar by a group of black men, and that they told him that he had to rob the bank and he had no choice. And as they looked closer at this device, I think they started to realize that this wasn't a joke, this wasn't a prank or anything, this was a real device.
I don't have a lot of time, he said. Police wanted to talk to him, Brian Wells, about a bank robbery that he had pulled off, but he told them that he had been set up and that the bomb he was wearing would go off.
So they started to hide behind their cars, and they called the bomb squad. But they would come a little bit too late because the device started ticking and beeping, and Brian started scooting back as if he was going to try to escape it somehow. People said around him it looked like he, at that moment, just realized that it was a real device. And it wasn't long before it actually did explode. It tore a 5-inch gash in his chest, It killed him. It didn't take long for him to pass away, and then the bomb squad showed up 2 minutes later. But obviously now that this has exploded, they are thinking, okay, he didn't just rob the bank, he's not the mastermind here. Was he really forced to do this? Because who would put a real device around their neck and rob a bank? I mean, that seems ridiculous. Inside Brian's car, they actually found this really weird 2-foot-long cane, which turned out to be kind of DIY crafted handmade gun. And the device that was put around his neck was also handmade. For sure, it looked like somebody put it together, and it was kind of like a big handcuff that went around his neck and kind of clumped into place. But even though it was handmade, investigators could tell that it was made using some professional tools. So they started investigating more into the scene, you know, what was Brian doing leading up to all of this, and that's when they found some very interesting notes in Brian's car addressed to a bomb hostage. And the note said to steal $250,000 from the bank, you know, small task, but it also was basically a scavenger hunt. It was this complex set of instructions for Brian to go all around town in order to eventually free himself from the bomb. There were keys and combinations to things, and it was pretty complicated. One of the notes actually said, the only way you can survive this is to cooperate completely. It also said, this powerful booby-trapped bomb can only be removed by following our instructions. Act now, think later, or you will die. They started at the scene where Brian claims that he had the device put on him. It was basically at the edge of this wooded area that they had him drive to, and they were actually able to get tire impressions and see that Brian's car was at the site, and there were also marks as if he looked like he had fought someone or tried to stop them from putting it on him, and there was some type of struggle, and the shoe prints that were there matched Brian's shoes. The first note said, exit the bank with the money and go to the McDonald's restaurant. Get out of the car and go to the small sign reading drive-through open 24 hours. And in the flower bed by the sign, there is a rock with a note taped to the bottom, and it has your next instructions. So they figured out that Brian followed this, and as soon as he got the money from PNC Bank, he drove to the McDonald's, went to the flower bed, and that's where he got the next note. And it told him to go up Peach Street to this wooded area several miles away. So he never quite made it to this step, but the next clue would have been to drive 2 miles south to another wooded area that had a road sign, and that's where he would find his next clue. But when police got to that area, they found this jar, but it was empty. So whoever did the scavenger hunt came and took the rest of the evidence or the rest of the clues before the police could find out what the rest of the plan was. Now this is where it gets even more confusing. I'm sure you're already a little confused. But a couple days later, August 31st, one of Brian's coworkers and one of his close friends, Bob Panetti, was found dead in his home. Now this is really important to the overall investigation here, and a lot of things are going to tie together because of this find. Bob was supposed to be interviewed by the police about all of this, and he was killed before he could. He was supposed to do it on a Monday morning, and he died Sunday evening, so it was very suspect. Now, I think he was killed, but he did have a drug problem, and they went ahead and ruled it an accidental drug overdose without being completely sure, so no one fully knows what happened to him. Now this is even more confusing because we're just adding another layer here and another person. But 3 weeks after Brian Wells had passed away, police received a call from a man named Bill Rothstein. Now this is definitely an important name. Now what he had to say was pretty interesting. He called to report that there was a dead body in the freezer at 8645 Peach Street. And then he told the dispatchers that the woman who put the body there was someone named Marjorie Beal Armstrong. Now this woman, Marjorie, is, I don't even know how to explain her. She is something else. But it turns out that Bill was a neighbor of Marjorie's, but they also dated back in the 60s and 70s. So basically, Bill told investigators that he had a body that he was storing for Marjorie just to be nice. And it was because she called him up one day and said, hey man, I murdered my ex. His name was Jim Roden, so another name here. But she needed somewhere to hide the body, so she called up Bill Rothstein and he agreed to hide it in his freezer. Now for some reason, he decides to call the police and let them know about this. Now he was gonna go along with this and help her out until she said that she wanted to use a meat grinder to grind the body, and he decided that that was too much for him, and he called the police to report his own involvement. I think he thought he was gonna like get away with it because he didn't technically do anything. I don't think he thought this through too much, but his call was very angry. So the police went to the house, and there's actually footage of this, and it's pretty gnarly. This house is like an episode of Hoarders. It's dirty. Police said it smelled disgusting. I mean, there's a body in there. The house was filled with just random things and stuff everywhere, trash everywhere, totally dirty. But after they saw the body, they went ahead and arrested Marjorie, and she said that Bill was just trying to blame it on her and that he is actually the one who did it. So she immediately started saying that she didn't do this. And it took 4 days for the body to defrost, for them to run tests on it, so pretty gnarly. But this is when they found out that Jim was indeed shot with a shotgun in the head and then put into the freezer. All right, so let's talk about Marjorie Deal Armstrong. Marjorie was actually very intelligent. She graduated 12th in her class and received a bachelor's degree in sociology and a master's in education. But even though she was really smart, she was very mentally ill, and she was fully transparent about this. She would literally brag to people about it, kind of get attention, and tell people like right off the bat, I'm bipolar. When she was only 23 years old, she first brought it up to a therapist that she thought something was wrong with her mind. She had trouble making close relationships, and she had really crippling anxiety. And over the years, various professionals have diagnosed her with a bunch of different things: bipolar disorder, mania, pressured speech, narcissism, and severe personality disorder. And life was no walk in the park for her. She definitely struggled a lot in her life. She had difficulty keeping a job, keeping relationships, and just struggled to get through her everyday life. In her life, she was briefly married, but her husband actually died from falling and hitting his head on a coffee table, which is questionable. But before he died, he stayed in the hospital, and she actually ended up suing the hospital for negligence and won. She was known for being very smart and very manipulative, but just a little off. Like, for example, when her husband died, she asked to keep one of his bones, his leg bone, because she wanted to one day clone him. And this isn't her only case of bad luck when it comes to men. There were actually 5 men in her life that died from pretty strange causes. For example, one of her boyfriends killed himself right after she moved out, and then in 1984, she was actually arrested for killing her boyfriend, Robert Thomas. But then she went through court and was acquitted due to grounds of self-defense. So a lot of questionable things have happened in Marjorie's life. But when she was arrested again for this latest body they found, Jim Roden, she claimed that she was completely innocent once again. And since this house was on Peach Street, they definitely thought, you know, maybe Marjorie could be involved in this, and they started to question her for that. But she insisted that she was not involved with it at all, and that the only way that she could have been involved in it is if Bill Rothstein was involved in it. And she blamed Bill for killing Jim, her ex, who was in the freezer. But as far as she goes, she said, I am completely innocent. You know, you have the wrong person. So they brought Bill in to take a polygraph test, and he did pass this, but there was one thing that he kept from them, and that was about his previous roommate named Floyd Stockton, who moved out of his house conveniently on the same day that the robbery of PNC Bank happened. Now, he was actually being held for other charges, but they interviewed him and gave him a polygraph test, which he also passed, so him and Rothstein were cleared. Then in January 2004, 5 months after Jim Roden died, Marjorie is in jail. She's there on murder charges, and Bill ended up testifying that the reason Marjorie did it is because they were fighting over financial issues. The judge ordered Marjorie to stand a trial, but Bill Rothstein, on the other hand, he didn't get off completely scot-free. I mean, he did hold a dead body for someone. You can't just do that. But he got a fairly good deal because he cooperated a lot, he helped the police, and he had good behavior. So he would only spend a few years in prison with a couple small charges like abuse of a corpse, for example. But Marjorie continued to state publicly that she was innocent and that Bill was the real guilty one. She said that he did kill Jim Roden, her ex, and Brian Wells, and committed the robbery of PNC Bank. So that following July, Bill Rothstein actually ended up checking himself into Mill Creek Community Hospital, where he ended up dying 7 days later from Hodgkin's lymphoma. This was extremely frustrating for investigators because he was helping them so much, and they really were expecting to have him around a lot longer to get information from. And oddly enough, Marjorie ended up confessing to the murder of Jim Roden. She said that they had a fight about another woman and she shot him. But she claims that she wasn't in her right mind and she wanted to get a plea deal. And at this point, she was given a 7-year minimum sentence with the option of parole for good behavior and stuff. And after her sentence, she would have to go to a mental institution and get help. But it doesn't stop there, because while Marjorie was in jail, she wrote a "to whom it may concern" letter to the police. And this letter was an attempt to bargain with the police, because Marjorie was known as being extremely manipulative. She was always wheeling and dealing with people, and you never quite knew what she was going to offer you or trick you on. Like, she was very hard to read, but she was like oddly contagious. She was very good with people and sickeningly likable in her own weird way. Marjorie's a very strange person. But of course, she wanted to bargain with the police. And this is when she wanted to give them some information about a different cold case, not the bank robbery. Now, this case involved a guy named Ken Barnes, who was an old fishing buddy of Marjorie's. But unfortunately, after she sent the letter, the police ended up not really giving in to her. They just didn't want to feel like they were wheeling and dealing with a criminal, you know? So nothing ever came out of that. And so she hatched up another plan. She said that she had a lot of information about other crimes, but she also had information about the pizza bomber case, and she claimed that she had proof that Bill Rothstein was the criminal here. She didn't give any more details about it, but she said he for sure has something to do with it. So the FBI ended up feeling like they had enough now to really feel like Marjorie was involved, and she claimed to have inside knowledge on it as well. So they got a warrant to go through her personal belongings, and this is when they found a letter. This was a very angry letter that was written to the bank. And this is where this case just is so confusing. But basically, a while before all of this, Marjorie's father and her did not have a good relationship. They were kind of estranged. And Marjorie had a safety deposit box with PNC Bank, where she had personal items stored. And PNC went ahead and let her dad have access to this safety deposit box when she claims he should not have gotten access to it. And this made her extremely mad because he got everything that was in that box. So she had beef with the bank. So now they're starting to really connect the dots here. Eventually, she was able to get officials to move her to Cambridge Springs after she gave some more details of other secrets she has. When the robbery took place, Bill had his blue van towed off his property, and it didn't return until after he had been cleared by the FBI. So she really started convincing police that Bill really did have something to do with this, so they started looking back at him, even though he had already passed away. And when they looked back at that old video of them walking through Bill's house and his garage, they saw that in the garage there was a diagram on his desk, and there was a drawing that had a little hand-drawn arrow that looked identical to the arrow that was drawn on the instructions of the bomb. And then they also did the classic sketch pad thing, which if you've never heard of this, it's a great little tip to make you feel like an investigator. If there's ever a notepad and you want to know what was written on it before it was ripped off, you just take a pencil and shade over the paper that had been underneath the one that was written on, and the indents from the pencil or pen will show up and you can normally read the letter. So they actually used this method, and this is when they were able to get his handwriting, and they were able to match his handwriting to some of the scavenger hunt notes. And Bill was really good with all this type of stuff, building and everything, so they started to realize Bill was the one who built this device. And they think he was the one who wrote the clues. But unfortunately, by the time that they had actually made these discoveries, Bill was long gone. So then the tip came in summer of 2005, so quite a bit of time after this. A man named Professor Sedgwick came forward and said that he was driving south on I-79, not far from where Brian Wells died, and he reported seeing a gold car driving right along the barrier coming at him full speed. And he said that this person clearly made eye contact with him, and he said that it was Marjorie. However, even though she admitted that she was on the highway that day, she did not admit that she had anything to do with the robbery, and there was no proof. But a little while after this, some women came forward from the jail who were inmates with Marjorie, and they claimed that she was talking about doing the robbery in jail. There was this one inmate who even took notes on what Marjorie was saying, and the notes literally included her saying that Bill was the one who built the neck bomb, but that they all worked on it. And this inmate also had written down the name Floyd Stockton. I mean, how would she have known about him? So that's when they realized that he was involved. And apparently Marjorie had hinted that Brian Wells was involved himself. And she said something along the lines of, it's not like we didn't measure his neck for the collar. So they obviously had some type of relationship with him. So this is when they decided to have a look at Ken Barnes, Marjorie's fishing buddy, who was a pretty interesting dude. He was a drug dealer, and he was self-named Cocaine Ken. And he was also described as a manipulator. And and during a series of interviews in 2005, police realized that Ken and Brian also had a connection to this woman named Jennifer Hoopsick. I told you there's a lot of names in this case. But basically, Brian would drive Jessica to go pick up cocaine from Ken a lot. They tried to interview Jessica, but she has refused to speak to anyone about Brian. So authorities did end up doing a search warrant on Ken Barnes' house, and when they went in his house, it was absolutely disgusting, just like Bill's, but even worse, like dog shit on the ground, random mattresses on the floor, like totally filthy. And when they were in the house, they didn't find anything in particular that linked Ken directly to the PNC Bank robbery as well, but they did find magazines talking about electronics and like building things, so they thought maybe that could be used as evidence. So then they kind of put the heat on him and started telling him, you know, we think we have a case here against you, buddy, and he just started spilling. He just straight up admitted that Marjorie was the one who solicited him to join in on this bank robbery that she had planned, and then she was going to use the money that they got from the bank robbery to pay Ken to go and then kill her dad. I know, this is a very confusing case, like I said. But if you remember, Marjorie was angry with her father because he had taken whatever was in that deposit box out. And they had other, you know, things going on in their relationship as well, and she hated him. So she wanted to rob the bank in order to get money to pay Ken to do the dirty work. Her father was going to be giving away some of her inheritance that she thought rightfully belonged to her, and she was mad about this. So she thought that this was the only way to get revenge. So then finally, on December 9th, 2005, Ken fully admits that he was involved in the bank robbery. He said that a bunch of them were involved in it, but basically Marjorie was the leader of the whole thing, the mastermind behind the whole plan. And that's the thing with Marjorie, is she thought she was very smart, but honestly, for there to be so many of them in this group, this collection of kind of shit humans that have done this, it's very odd because they really set him up for failure. I mean, the amount of time that they allocated for him to do this whole thing and get the collar off didn't make any sense. It was barely enough time and didn't even like really take into account what if there were all red lights, or what if he's pulled over by police, or really anything. But a lot of people think that their plan all along was to kill Brian, that Brian himself was in on it, but obviously he didn't think they were gonna kill him. What investigators think for the most part is that Brian was involved to some extent, but he thought they were putting on like a fake bomb, and maybe he realized it was a real bomb. We don't know at what point, but I don't think he agreed to this plan by any means. But I'm pretty sure he was involved to some extent. Because why would he make up this whole story about how it was some group of black guys that forced him to wear this collar if he wasn't trying to protect people he was working with? He would just be honest and tell them it was Bill and Marjorie and all of them. But Ken was the one who really spilled the beans on everything. He said the day before the robbery they had a meeting. This meeting was held at Bill Rothstein's house, and they discussed all the parts that everyone would play and how it would work. And he claimed that Brian was there, Marjorie was there, Floyd Stockton was there, himself, Ken Barnes was there, Bill Panetti, and also Brian Wells. Ken said his role was to kind of be lookout during all of this. Ken and Marjorie actually went to a Shell station, and they were the ones who called the pizzeria, placed the order, and kicked it all off. And they think when Brian got there, he gave them the pizza, was waiting to be paid, and that's when they brought out the device, which he probably already knew about, strapped it on him. And they think that at this point, Brian realized that maybe it was a real device, not a fake one, or maybe he didn't want to actually go through with it, and he tried to bail, and that's why there's kind of like foot scuff marks from them fighting, that they think that Marjorie or someone grabbed him. And according to Ken, Marjorie was the one that said, if anyone catches you, tell them a bunch of black guys did this to you. And then they all watched their plan unfold. Some of them were even watching with binoculars from across the street from the bank to make sure that Brian did everything. So after all this info came out, the one person left that they hadn't gone after was Floyd Stockton. Now remember, he's Bill Rothstein's roommate, and he was living in Bill's house at the time of all this until the robbery happened, and then he moved out that day. So they finally got in touch with Floyd, and they made a deal with him that if he agreed to testify, that he wouldn't get in any trouble himself. Because they were so desperate to figure out this whole case and what happened. So on March 27th, 2007, 3.5 years after the robbery, Floyd Stockton confessed to everything. He said that he was ordered by Rothstein to put the device on Brian Wells' neck, so it really seemed like Bill and Marjorie were the main two running this whole thing. And he said that he saw fear in Bill's eyes, and it disturbed him so much that he bailed on everything. He literally moved. He got the hell out of Dodge. So then 4 years after the bank robbery, on July 9th, 2007, officials finally charged Marjorie with the PNC bank robbery. They also charged Ken Barnes. And what's so crazy is it seems like all these people were in need of money, but it wasn't that much money that they were looking to get. Like $250,000 out of the bank for all these people to be involved. It seems kind of stupid, honestly. But like I said, in the end, the investigation came to the conclusion that Brian Wells did have some involvement in this. They don't know to what extent he agreed to participate. They believed he was forced at some point. There was a point where he was participating up to some level, but then he didn't want to, they believe, and he was forced the rest of the way. So there were no charges made against Brian Wells, even though he's gone anyway. And what's crazy is no one was actually charged with his murder. Marjorie was offered a plea deal, but she actually turned it down. She actually wanted to prove that she was now mentally competent to stand trial. So she got her wish, and on October 15th, 2010, 7 years after the robbery happened, they went to trial. Marjorie ended up being found guilty on all counts of her actions. She was sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years on February 28th, 2011. And she actually died in 2017, but up until her death, Marjorie claimed that she was innocent. She said that she did not do this. It was really more Bill. It was always between her and Bill. They had some major beef there towards the end. But I thought it was just such a crazy story. I know it's really confusing. Props to you if you stuck through that one. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this case, and if you've heard about it or remember when it happened, let me know your theory if you don't think Brian was involved, or do you think he was more involved? Do you think he knew that it was a real device? Do you think he didn't? What do you think? But that's it for me today, guys. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you next time. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Where Is video. I know it's been a long time since I posted a video. It's been a couple weeks now. I've been really busy. I'm working on some really cool stuff behind the scenes that I plan to post on my channel in the upcoming year. I can't talk about it too much, but I'm really excited for you guys to see what I'm working on and where a lot of my energy and time has been going. But today I did want to do a Where Is video. It's been a while since I've done one, and today I'm talking about a case that I have wanted to talk about for a really long time, way even before I started my channel and started doing all of this, honestly. I have known about this case and really have been interested in it for a really long time. I think you guys are going to find this one to be very intriguing, and you're going to be really confused and just wondering, wishing there was more answers at the end of it, because it's truly one that just leaves you with so many possibilities that you almost feel overwhelmed at the end. There have also been some newer updates. The police have been focusing their investigation more on the family. So I'll tell you what I think about that, my honest thoughts, and we'll just get into everything in a sec here. But before we do that, we have another Where Is campaign. And I did want to let you guys know that we have now hit the $50,000 mark. We're actually at $51,695. Anyone can donate at any time via our team link below, but I also have more shirts for you guys if you would like to get something in return for your donation. I know a lot of people love to be able to buy something and have a percentage of the proceeds go to a charity. It's really nice. I mean, win-win, right? So this is the newest Thorn design. I thought this was really unique and looks very official. I feel like it does a good job of telling the story of Thorn, which is all about the rose and how the thorn protects the rose, and the rose is their symbol for children in general. And this design was created by TJ Kinch. Thank you, TJ. I will link TJ's social media below. And again, 100% of the profit from that t-shirt goes directly to Thorn. So we don't make any money off of it, and it's just a nice way to donate and also get the word out about Thorn by you wearing the shirts around. They're limited edition, so I only run them for a couple weeks. Keep that in mind. The link to purchase them will be below, and it'll be through our new merch shop. So they're better quality now, and hopefully the customer service experience is better for you guys, and just everything is better. But let's get into today's case. Today we are talking about Mason Smith. Mason was a very beautiful looking guy, honestly. Look at his eyes, beautiful piercing blue eyes, blonde hair. He was 17 years old at the time, living in Utah, and he had 5 older siblings as well. But he was definitely thought of as the baby of the family and was a little bit coddled by his older siblings. He was a total mama's boy, and everyone who took care of him would tell that to his mom. I thought it was interesting. She mentioned that all of her kids had said daddy first before they said mommy. And Mason was her first kid to say mommy first, or mom. So he really loved his mom. And one thing that's really important to know about Mason is that when he was a child, he actually suffered from childhood aphasia. And aphasia is caused by delay in the speech development, and it sometimes makes it very difficult for people who have aphasia to be understood. And this is obviously really frustrating. Mason definitely experienced this, trying to communicate things to his parents early on that they couldn't understand what he was saying. And he had an older sister who did kind of understand and would kind of translate for his mom. But I think it was a struggle for him in the beginning to not feel like he was being heard. I think that really manifested in his life. As he got older, people would really bully him. You know, kids are mean, and he just talked kind of different. I mean, it's similar to how someone who's hard of hearing or deaf may talk, but it's kind of slowed and a little bit stretched out, and it just sounds a little, you know, different than how other people speak. So obviously kids don't understand what a disability is, and a lot of kids will bully. And it was really hard on his self-confidence. He had speech therapy, and the speech issues improved a lot over time, but initially it was hard. He ended up being a pretty quiet, low-key, reserved kid. I mean, everyone knows someone like that who's just kind of observing all the time and just never wants to step on anyone's toes, and is just very chill overall. Another important thing here is that Mason's family had just moved to Utah, and not only to Utah, to the United States. They had just moved from Canada. So huge change for Mason. They ended up moving to St. George, Utah, and it's a pretty small town. I mean, relatively, it's only about 80,000 people, but it's a really, really beautiful area. It's also very touristy, and it's right on the border of Nevada. And at first, Mason was hesitant to move because he only had 1 year of school left, but he never really had friends, which is terribly sad. He never really bonded with a friend super well. I mean, he would casually talk to people, like he had probably acquaintances, but I don't think his friendships went very deep outside of school and stuff. But he was still nervous to make the move, you know, it's still nerve-wracking going in and meeting new people, seeing new faces, and he was at the end of his high school career, so he kind of felt like hesitant to leave. But he and his mom, Tracy, actually suffered from depression, and they think that some of it was because of where they were living, and they wanted a fresh start in a beautiful, scenic area. They believed that if they could get more sunshine, it would help. And I mean, it's true. It definitely makes a difference. Anyone else suffer from seasonal depression? So the plan was for Mason and his mom to move out there first. All of the other siblings were grown and moved on, and he was the only one still living with his parents. And at first, his father, Darren, actually would come and visit Tracy and Mason out in Utah every once in a while because he had various construction projects, so he'd kind of be there like on and off. But that time that they had together where it was just them, Tracy said was really great, that they were able to bond a lot, and they were already really close. I mean, they had a great relationship, but she felt like they got to spend some quality time together leading up to all of this, and got to get outside and explore Utah, such a gorgeous state. And according to his mom, Mason was loving his life down in Utah. I mean, he loved the outdoor activities. He was really enjoying the scenic views that they had. They were hiking and doing all types of stuff, and he was really enjoying his new life. One bummer though was when they moved, not all of his credits transferred from his school, so he ended up having to do some summer credits to like get up to balance. And during his summer school, he was actually really enjoying it. Tracy was working and enjoying her job. The weather was beautiful. He was enjoying his new school and new friends he was making. And overall, Mason was really happy. Now, Mason being, you know, a pretty reserved guy, he was also really into being by himself and doing activities alone. He was a creative person. He would write music. He loved music, loved to listen to music. And he also loved to play video games. It was a total escape from his life. That's why most people play video games, is it's a whole different world. You turn on the game and you're immersed in this other world, especially if you're on it all the time. It's to the point where you feel like welcomed back into the world that you like better, you know? In addition to his music and video games, he also really loved anime, like really into it, was super into it, very comforted by it, loved to watch movies and shows. And if you don't really know what anime is, it's a style of cartooning. There's a lot of really dramatic plots, a lot of deep stuff in there. It's not just like cartoons, you know, it's pretty deep material, and it can get dark, some of it for sure. And his parents said that at some points they felt like he was addicted to anime. Like it was just his other life. So now we're gonna fast forward a little bit in time to Monday, August 31st, 2015. That day, Mason was walking home from Desert Hills High School, and he sent a text to his mother telling her that so far he was doing really well in school, that he had all A's and his grades were good. It was like only a couple weeks into the actual semester, but so far so good is basically what his text was telling his mom. And the reason he was telling her that is because they had this agreement that if he had good grades, he could watch anime. That was essentially his reason for calling and telling her this. So meanwhile, back at home, Darren Smith just got done working on a project in Salt Lake City. So he had just gotten home a couple days prior. And it's an interesting dynamic when it comes to Mason's parents. I think his dad had a little more strict attitude towards everything versus Tracy was a little bit more motherly and understanding. I think a lot of people have this type of dynamic growing up and can relate to Mason in a lot of ways. One thing that's really interesting to note here though is Mason's dad was not religious. The rest of the family is Mormon, and they moved to Utah, but the father is agnostic, which really stood out to me because in my head I was thinking maybe he's really religious and that's why he's strict, because a lot of religious parents are strict, but I don't really know why he was strict, and I don't know like how strict he really was. I mean, there's a lot of questions about how life was, and I feel like only Mason could like truly speak to how strict he felt his parents were, or his dad. So back to that day, August 31st, Mason wanted to get home from school and get right on anime and just immerse himself in that, relax. He's been killing it in school, really overwhelmed meeting all these new people, trying to adjust to this life, and he just wants to relax and escape into what he's into. And his dad immediately decided that he wanted to actually take him out for some driving practice. So we're not sure exactly how this conversation went down, of course, but essentially Mason told his dad that he felt like he had a headache and that he wanted to relax a little bit and rest, and he didn't feel like he could drive. So they rescheduled it for a different time. They actually planned on doing it the next day, so they had made arrangements. He actually was kind of afraid of driving. He didn't really like the idea of driving. It's not like he was like thrilled to learn how to drive like a lot of teenagers are, and I really get that. I have major fear of driving anxiety when it comes to driving, and to be honest with you guys, I haven't driven in 2 years because of that. It's something I'm working on, but I mean, I understand Mason's fear of driving. I think a lot of you probably do. So later that night, around 8:30 p.m., Tracy got home from work and she comes in the house. It's all kind of quiet, and she ended up going into Mason's room, and she said that he was just laying on his bed with the lights completely turned off. She asked if he was okay, and he said he wasn't feeling very good. So she told him, I hope you feel better, gave him a kiss goodnight, and then she just left the room. So then later that night, around 10 p.m., Tracy decides to unplug the internet. Even though Mason had, the good grades, he wasn't given complete access to internet. He had, times that he was allowed to use it still. So she would actually unplug their modem and normally would hide the cord as well. But this night in particular, she said she felt lazy and just left it out. So then later on that night, after her and Darren had gone to bed, Darren woke up and thought, you know what, I bet Mason went and got that cord and plugged the internet back in. I bet he's on his computer right now. So he got up and went to go check on Mason himself, and sure enough, as he's coming up to his door, he sees this like blue light under the door, and he realizes, okay, yeah, he's on his computer. He opens the door, and according to him, this wasn't like a major confrontation. He claims that Mason didn't fight back with him at all, and I mean, I believe that. Mason, it seems like a very, like I said, a chill type of guy. I don't think he normally would like throw a fit, but he was angry. I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't upset, but according to his dad, Mason just closed his computer, handed over his phone, everything, gave everything to him. Now, there's definitely been some speculation online. There's a lot of people that speculate about this case online, and people are curious about how much the dynamic changed in the house when Darren was around. And like I said, I can't speak to how like strict of a parent he was or what Mason was feeling. I mean, no one can truly know how he felt other than him. But there's a lot of people who think that, when Darren was in town, that there was less video games, that there was just more pressure on him, that, he felt a lot of pressure from his dad to get a job, that his dad wanted him to be perfect maybe. Like maybe he was feeling a lot of feelings about not being able to please his father or make him proud. So the next morning after they had all gone to bed, they'd actually joked about how Mason had gotten the cord and went back to bed and everything. And then the next morning around 7 a.m., the Smiths began their normal routine. Darren claims that he went and knocked on Mason's door just to make sure that he was getting ready. And then a little while later, they actually heard him getting ready. At around 7:30, they heard him in the kitchen, having breakfast. And then 10 minutes later, Tracy heard the garage door close, which meant that Mason had walked to the bus stop, which is about 2 minutes away from their house. Now, one thing that is super important to note here is neither parent, Tracy or Darren, actually saw Mason that morning, that day at all. I mean, they heard him, they think he was getting ready in the house, but neither of them ever made contact with him or even saw him. So Tracy went to work like normal, and Darren went to the gym that morning and then spent a bunch of time doing yard work. And then as afternoon came around, Darren started getting ready to take Mason on that driving lesson that they had planned. And Mason's bus usually dropped him off around 3:15 p.m., it kind of varies. But at 3:30 p.m., Mason still wasn't home yet, and that was weird to Darren because the bus stop's only 2 minutes from their house. And Darren was getting really nervous because he took his cell phone from him the night before, which I get parents taking away phones. It sometimes needs to be done. I'm not a parent, but I can imagine it needs to be done sometimes. But it's really a shame when you need them and you took their phone and you can't get a hold of them. I mean, that's gotta be a crappy feeling. You guys are gonna hear some construction noises in this video, I think towards the end. There may not be anything I can do about it. We are having work done in the podcast studio today, and they can't work around my filming schedule, so we're just gonna do our best here. They just got back from their lunch break. So Darren is obviously stressed out, so he ends up texting Tracy and tells her that Mason never came home. So at first Tracy thought, he's probably still mad at us for what happened the night before because Darren took his computer and phone away. Maybe he was just blowing off steam, trying to chill a little bit before he came home. But then Tracy received an email from the school saying that Mason never came to school that day, which was super alarming for her. Tracy immediately headed home. And when they got home, they realized that Mason's bedroom door was actually locked. She said this was extremely weird for him and that he never locked his door. So she thought, this is really odd. His parents were able to pick the lock pretty quick. I mean, it was a typical household door lock. They went in his room and didn't find him and didn't find anything that looked out of the ordinary to them. So they ended up thinking that, maybe there's a chance he went to youth group. He did belong to a church, to a youth group, so they checked with them. He wasn't there. So now they really didn't know what to do. They figured, maybe if he is blowing off steam, he'll probably come home by 10 p.m. because that's his curfew. But after his curfew came and went, they really got scared. So this is when they went ahead and called the police and filed a missing juvenile report. One police officer even told them that he was planning to just kind of cruise the area all night and just keep an eye out for Mason. And here's another critical piece of information. Mason had actually run away before. This was not the first time he had run away when they still lived in Canada. And it was pretty simple what happened in Canada. His grades were suffering, so his parents took away his Xbox completely, and he ran away. He actually took some food with him, and he took some resumes. He was planning to get a job. He wasn't planning to come back. However, the particular night that he ended up running away was freezing cold outside, so he ended up coming right back home. So I think Tracy and Darren are starting to think, this is round 2 of that, and he'll come back. So September 2nd comes, and they still have no sign of Mason, but they think he's run away and he's gonna come home. Tracy actually drove to his school that day and went in and paid for his cap and gown. It was his senior year. She figured, he's gonna come back. He'll be graduating eventually, so I gotta get this done. And then she went home and continued searching in his room to see if she could find any clues. And that's when she discovered that his school stuff, like his binder and books and such, were on his closet floor under a bunch of clothes. It was obvious that he was trying to make it look like he took his school books and stuff. So his parents wouldn't question whether or not he went to school that day and he would have more time without them looking for him. And while Tracy was in his room, she ended up finding his wallet and his ID and stuff. And obviously, if you're gonna run away, that's something that you're gonna wanna take with you. And this is when Tracy started to panic. She started to feel like maybe he didn't just leave. Maybe something bad is going on here. So this is when she called the rest of her family members and told them that he's missing. So as day 3 came along, the police finally decided to start looking further into this case, more than just a typical runaway juvenile. They thought it was really strange that he didn't take anything with him. Like, he didn't have his phone, he didn't have his wallet, he didn't have his ID. Like, how far can you get as a teenager without those things? They looked at his social media and they were able to confirm that there wasn't anything really happening on there, although he wasn't like a huge social media user by any means. So the police and Tracy are starting to question, you know, whether he even got on the bus that morning. And the school's telling them that he never made it to school, so chances are he didn't. And of course, when they went and interviewed the bus driver and the other kids, turns out Mason never got on the bus that day. So a few more days went by, and at this point, all of his brothers and sisters came into town to look for him. Everyone's fully freaking out, scared for him. The tone has very much shifted from runaway to maybe something happened to him. Was he kidnapped? I mean, your mind goes wild. They posted flyers everywhere in the community. The siblings really helped out, and they even went to their church in Utah and new neighbors and people that they had all just met. They had just moved here, and they were asking, you know, can you help us find Mason? And people were coming out and helping and being really friendly. So the neighborhood and the surrounding area started forming search parties, and after police started talking with people in the community, people did talk about seeing a man that looked like Mason who was holding a sign about 5 miles from their house on Interstate 15, and the sign said Las Vegas. So this definitely gave some hope to their family, thinking maybe he went to Vegas, you know? It's only 2 hours away. Every teenager fantasizes about Las Vegas. And in that general area, there are multiple gas stations, so they hit up a bunch of gas stations like along the drive to see if maybe they had stopped at any of them, if they could get camera footage. They did get reports that there was already a man in Vegas that looked like Mason. Now Mason, when I say man, I mean he's big. He's 17, he's a minor, but he's big. He's like 6'4", 200 pounds. He's huge. So it's not like he's hard to miss. Eventually Darren decided that he was gonna go to Vegas himself and see if he could just find Mason. And he literally was walking the strip looking for him, seeing if he recognized anyone that looked like him, and he couldn't find anything, so he left with no leads as well.
Crews hit the streets again tonight searching for a missing Utah teenager who may be here in our valley. 17-year-old Mason Smith went missing more than a week ago from St. George, Utah. Members of Mason's family think he could be somewhere along I-15 between Salt Lake City and Las Vegas. St. George police have received tips that Smith was seen holding a sign reading "Hitchhiking to Vegas" the day he went missing. Red Rock Search and Rescue has deployed several missions looking for him.
Mason, if you're watching this, one, you're not in trouble, okay? We're here to help you. Your family's not mad at you. They miss you. They want you to come home.
Mason has blonde hair, blue eyes, is 6'4" and weighs about 200 pounds. If you think you've seen him, please call the police.
Red Rock Search and Rescue is wrapping up their search in Utah. A team of volunteers spent the last few days in St. George looking for missing teen Mason Smith. The 17-year-old disappeared almost a month ago. He was last seen along the highway with a sign that read "Hitchhiking to Las Vegas."
Meanwhile, back at home, Tracy's sister had actually figured out how to get into Mason's YouTube account, like figured out his password and stuff. And when they got on there, they realized that he had purposely just deleted his history. They also went through his phone, but they weren't able to find anything out of the ordinary. Eventually, they gave the detectives his phone and laptop to be looked into more. We've definitely never seen this, but apparently when they looked into it more, they found a Word document, and it was written by Mason, and apparently in this document, Mason had talked about wanting to try to hurt himself. The family was able to obtain some of that gas station footage, and they were able to determine that the guy that was holding the sign saying Vegas was not Mason, similar looking but not him. Then a few days later, not till September 7th, his mom ended up discovering a folded up note in his wallet, which I honestly can't believe police missed that. Somehow they looked at his wallet and stuff and missed that. But anyway, now this letter has been super controversial across the internet. No one, and I repeat, no one knows what this says. No one has any idea exactly what it says. There's been some parts that have been confirmed by family, like for example, his mom said in the letter, he actually said the words "I'm done." This was a very personal and intense letter that was very upsetting for Mason, I'm sure, to write, and not something that I think he would want everyone in the internet reading. So I think it's a good decision that they've decided to keep this private. A lot of people are angry about it and think that there's reasons that his parents have kept it secret, you know, other reasons. But it was him basically talking about his internal conflict with feeling like he was never good enough. He felt like he was really frustrated with his parents trying to control his every move and feeling like he was disappointing them. And in the letter, very specifically talked about how much it hurt that they took away his electronics. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. You know, he was saying, I escape to my anime. This is how I relax. And when you take this away from me, it's depressing. It makes me angry. And I think he felt really out of control, feeling like, okay, I'm an adult. I'm going into senior year and I'm getting good grades. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to, and I'm still having my internet shut off at 10. Like, I feel like he felt extremely suffocated in a way. I understand taking your kids' internet and taking their devices, of course. I mean, it has to be done, like I said. But when they're doing good in school and they're doing everything they're asking you to do, I'm sure it feels pretty frustrating as a kid, feeling like, okay, there's no way for me to, it doesn't matter what I do, I'm gonna be controlled. Especially when, you know, he's about to be 18. He's gonna be leaving the house soon. I think he thought maybe he would have more of a transition period, and I think he was upset with the way that it was starting to turn out, especially with his dad around. The letter wasn't written to anyone specific, and it didn't have a date, so they're not sure exactly when he wrote this. Police thought it was really strange that the letter was hidden too. Like, if you had written a goodbye letter or a suicide note, you'd probably leave it somewhere in plain sight. And police ended up finding out that about 2 years prior to all of this, Mason actually was hospitalized for depression. He was having a really hard time, and he was in the hospital about a week. So police and his family started trying to think about what would he have done if he wanted to hurt himself. There weren't any weapons in the house, so police started to feel like maybe he took his own life outside somewhere. And especially in this area, St. George, where they lived, there was a lot of cliffs and like high areas